One of the things about psychoanalysis that I find interesting is there's a very popular view that we are all kind of utilitarian. We all want to maximize our pleasure and minimize our pain, and human beings, we want the best for ourselves. Even if we do weird things, we ultimately are trying to pursue our own self-interest. But I would say the truth is actually much more complicated, that sometimes we want our own downfall. Sometimes we enter into self-destructive behaviors. Sometimes we hate ourselves, and we turn that hatred against ourselves, or sometimes we find ourselves in difficult environments and we stay in them because it reflects something that we see in ourselves. So I maybe stay too long in an abusive relationship because, in one sense, um, I get to see through the other person's eyes the way I see myself, or whatever. So,
Oof.
so always my advice is, so as to break these types of repetitions, is to really find someone, a good psychotherapist or psychoanalyst, and to do this. It's the hard work. It's a very courageous work to do, to have the courage to sit once a week or twice a week and go into those dark parts of yourself and mourn. Because sometimes what happens is when something very traumatic happens, like the death of your husband, um, you can't mourn. You can't even mourn. It's too much. It's a trauma. It's an event that is so big you can't put it into words. You can't symbolize it. I think
Right.
in the last minimalist I talked about Bion, who said that for a child, they have these experiences of beta elements, which is an event that happens that the child can't articulate. They can't put into words. They can't speak, and so it remains within them. It
Yes.
remains, and they cry and they act out, but they can't symbolize it.
Hmm.
And Bion talks about the role of the parent as an alpha function. And the alpha function is when the parent is able to take the child and soothe the child and put their trauma, their beta element, into language to help them start to speak it and to think it. And he calls this, I love this because he calls it the alpha function, because what you can hear in this is the role of the parent is to alphabeticize the experience, to put into language the trauma.
Mm.
Now, if we can't alphabeticize the trauma, say, of the death of this loved one, it remains within us, unspoken, like a rock, like the black hole that's devastating and will cause it comes out, it finds a way to speak. The trauma that we cannot speak always finds a way to speak. And it finds a way to speak through maybe going into a difficult relationship, or having difficult relationship with your kids, or through a bad back or heart disease. It'll always find a way to speak. A
Yeah.
symptom, as we think we've talked about, a symptom comes from the word Santom. And Santom sounds like holy man, Santom in French, holy man, which means a prophet. So your symptom is a prophet. It speaks the truth. And your symptoms tell you a truth that you cannot speak. So all of this to say that going to a good psychotherapist is a way sometimes to be able to speak the loss, to mourn it, to put it into language. And by doing that, you will become healthier and will be able to have healthier relationships in the future. So